The firestorm surrounding Planned Parenthood and its alleged illegal sale of body parts from aborted babies is prompting increased calls for criminal prosecutions and for Congress to defund the nation's #1 abortion provider. Meantime, life activists nationwide are rallying against Planned Parenthood. One rally held across the street from the organization's downtown Chicago office drew about 125 people. Here are some of the comments from speakers at that event.
I am pro-life. I'm not anti-abortion. This is a positive agenda for life that starts at conception and ends at natural death. And that is the agenda of the pro-life movement, including as it relates to protecting unborn life. So in an age where we call people things they want to be called that they're not, it would be nice to refer to us as things that we actually are. Secondly, just to tell my personal story, it's why this is a personal issue to me in addition to an issue of reason and faith. I was born April 29th, 1972, so about 9 months before the Roe v. Wade decision. And I was adopted. So had the law been a little bit different, a little bit earlier, perhaps the world would never have been availed of my brilliance, and that is not a world in which any of us would like to live. I think you can agree. But it makes this real. It makes this serious, just as these videos do. And the other thing that these videos do, and by the way, for those who haven't seen, the third one was released today. The third one released today. Go check it out and distribute it. 9 more to come. What these videos are doing is kind of ending the discussion, at least among reasonable people. You can't listen to those Planned Parenthood butchers. You can't watch those videos and say this is a reasonable difference of opinion between people who are pro-choice and people who are pro-life. I understand people who disagree with the pro-life position, but very few people are going to understand or tolerate what they're seeing on those videos. So it's a seminal moment for the pro-life organization. It's a seminal moment in the history of this country as the debate has raged each and every year since that '73 decision. And so how we react to this moment is critically important. Where they are going to engage in vitriol and hate, we need to have a positive message of love. Where they are going to put their barbarism on display, we need to represent civilized conduct. Where they are going to be hot and angry, as Cecile Richards, the $500,000 a year CEO of Planned Parenthood, was on Sunday on the George Stephanopoulos show, where they're going to be angry and mean-spirited and vitriolic and engaged in a smear campaign. We need to take the position of reason and present the evidence and let people come to their own conclusions, because if we do those things, people are going to come to the inexorable conclusion that we all came to a long time ago, that America is a much better place when our tax dollars aren't going to fund Planned Parenthood. America is a much better place when we err consistently on the side of life. Thank you very much.
We do need to have that positive energy. There's a lot of that positive energy nationwide. And one of the things that you can do to help that is, you can see we have these hashtags all on these signs all over here. Women betrayed and hashtag PP sells body parts. We want to get those to trend. So throw some hashtags out on Twitter, on Facebook. Let's help get people's awareness, raise people's awareness to this issue in a peaceful way. Next, I'd like you to welcome, please, our next speaker, Mary Helen Fiorito, who serves on the board of directors for Aid of Women, they do excellent work right here, 2 doors down from the clinic here that is responsible for so much death. They offer life and hope to so many pregnant women. Please welcome Mary.
Thank you all for coming today. As Jeremiah mentioned, my name's Mary Fiorito. I'm an attorney, and for 20 years I have been a pro-life activist in the Chicago area. One of the things that I do quite frequently is to go to college campuses and participate in debates on abortion, often with people from Planned Parenthood, sometimes with people from NARAL or other abortion organizations. And so for me, as I watch the videos of Planned Parenthood doctors negotiating the sale of the body parts of unborn children, and saw the doctors cavalierly discussing changing the method of abortion that they would use on women in order to make sure that certain body parts would remain intact. It took me back down memory lane a little bit to a time about 10 years ago when Planned Parenthood was telling some other lies that unfortunately they got away with. And at that time, our nation was debating whether or not to make illegal a certain type of late-term abortion called partial birth abortion. And Planned Parenthood put out lots of misinformation, including misinformation that directly harmed the health of America's women. They put out a piece of information that said, "Don't worry, everyone, we give those women so much anesthesia that the baby dies before the partial birth abortion is started." Does everybody remember this, who was around during that time? That the baby dies or is so anesthetized that he or she doesn't feel anything during that brutal partial birth abortion procedure. Ellen Goodman in the New York Times ran a column with this lie from Planned Parenthood, and it was widely circulated. So much so that the American Academy of Anesthesiologists actually had to issue a public warning to the people of the United States to say this has no basis in scientific fact. The head of that organization, a doctor who was a longtime anesthesiologist, testified before Congress and said he had women coming to them with that article wrinkled up saying, "I have to have surgery. Am I going to get the kind that's going to kill my baby, the anesthesia that's going to make my baby die?" He said his own patients, women who were pregnant, were putting off necessary surgeries because of a Planned Parenthood lie. And we can't let them get away with that again. They issued so much more false information during that time, including that the procedure was only used on babies who would die anyway, and that it was used rarely, even though the doctors themselves, much like in these videos, were saying exactly the opposite. We're saying no, it's most often used on perfectly healthy babies being carried by perfectly healthy mothers. So why did Planned Parenthood work so hard to make sure that partial birth abortion would remain legal? At the time they said, we need this procedure to protect the health of the women. We have to be able to use the procedures that are most safe for women. However, now we're seeing this whole debate in a different light, aren't we? Were they trying to keep partial birth abortion, as the doctor on the first tape admits, in order to make sure that most of the baby came out intact so that they could preserve the major organs for sale? Now it puts partial birth abortion and all the conversations we had around that, including testimony that was given under oath, under a very, very different light. So we've seen this before, my friends. We've seen when Planned Parenthood has lied to the American people, yet we still fund them to the tune of $500 billion a year. However, I think that we need to make this the last time that we hear Planned Parenthood's lies. And we call upon our government officials today to defund Planned Parenthood and take that $500 billion and let's put it where American women really want it to go, into safer neighborhoods and better housing and better education for their children, not into the destruction of human lives. So with you, I am hoping that it's the last time and that of all of Planned Parenthood's horses and all of their men will never put Planned Parenthood back together again. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jessica Schusler, and I come to you as the face of a woman betrayed by abortion. I found out I was pregnant 19 years ago, and I had deep love for my child. I was only 14 years old, but I still remember going to a flea market and buying a little baby onesie for my child. And I remember going to a grocery store and buying this baby name book and beginning to highlight my favorite names. Unfortunately, weeks after finding out that I was pregnant, my mom found out I was pregnant, and she went completely berserk. She made it very clear to me that I was going to have an abortion that week, and there was going to be no choice in the matter. I was told that if I dared not have an abortion, that she would kick me out of the house, that she would divorce my father. She told me that she called the high school that I was about to begin in 3 weeks later and was told that pregnant girls can't go to high school, which I, of course, learned was untrue when I got to school and looked around. Her worst threat was that she told me that if I did not have an abortion, that she would commit suicide by driving her van off a bridge and into a river. Looking back on it, I feel like I went into a medical state of shock. I never said yes. I never said no. I never had any kind of a response during those couple of days because I felt that I really had no choice. A few days later, I was taken to an abortion clinic in downtown Chicago. And I remember being taken to the counseling room, and all that was said to me was, "Do you have any questions?" And at that time, I said, "When would my child have been born?" And she answered my question of when my child would have been born. I began to cry, and the counseling session was over. I was never, even though I was only 14 years old, I was never asked any kind of questions to screen for coercion, to see if I was there because I understood what was going on, because I wanted it to go on. I was only 14 years old, and I was never asked any questions of if I was there as a victim of rape or incest. My experience with the abortion industry is that they are callous and cold. Even though Cecile Richards would like to say that they are compassionate and loving people, that has not been my experience. My experience has been what is on those videos, with completely callous and evil. And when my counseling session ended, I waited for it to be called for the IV to be put in. And I continued to cry as my small 14-year-old hand had an IV put into it. And that doctor as well never said any words of compassion, never asked me if I was there because I wanted to be there. When I woke up from the abortion, it was just a horrible moment of just feeling the rage and the anger and just the disappointment in myself that I wasn't strong enough to make sure that that did not happen, and that I wasn't strong enough to protect my child. I also want to share with you that years later, we went on as a family and it was never talked about. And years later, I screamed at my parents and I said, "I am still in pain. I think about this every day. Why don't I ever hear you talk about it? You must not care." And I was surprised to see that my dad began to weep, and he said that he thinks about this child every single day of his life, and that if he could turn back the hands of time, he would give up his life for that child. I also saw my mom weep and don't even remember her saying anything, because she still, 19 years later, she could not stand here and put two words together, because she continues to be deeply hurt by abortion. She is also a woman betrayed. She believed the lies that it is a blob of tissue, that it is a clump of cells. She believed the lies that abortion was the answer to her daughter's problems. And she came to find out, and she continues to find out her entire life, that it wasn't the answer. It was actually the worst thing she possibly could have done, the worst thing that could have happened. As the years went on, I kept in contact with the former father of the baby. We never got back together, but he continued to express to me how deeply sad and grieved he was. He lived his whole life in as much grief as I was. And just this past April, he died of a heroin overdose. And I believe that it is a direct link to the pain that he had to live with his entire life. I am calling on Congress to defund Planned Parenthood now. I find it a complete abomination that my tax dollars and your tax dollars go to this evil organization, which is the #1 provider of abortions in this country. That has to end now, and I'm so thankful for these videos to be coming out and showing the truth. And I pray that the congressmen and women will take this up and defund Planned Parenthood now. And I also hope that we will keep this on the front burner, and that if any congressman or woman dares to vote no against defunding Planned Parenthood, that any of those people who are in any kind of a purple district will be voted out of office the next time they come up for election. We have to stand up. You know, Planned Parenthood and Cecile Richards likes to say that they are not selling baby body parts. Well, how could that be true if the person in the second video is haggling over price because she wants enough money to buy a Lamborghini? How could that be true? And also, it is against federal law to change the abortion procedure during an abortion to save money. She, again, Cecile Richards, has said that that is not happening. Both of those videos show that that is completely a lie, that the abortionist And lastly, in closing, although I will forever live with the pain of my abortion, I have received much love, healing, and forgiveness in my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And I want everyone to know that if you are in search of love, healing, and forgiveness, that you are invited to call on His name today.
Hello everyone, my name is Adriana Morales, and like Jeremiah shared, I am a client advocate at Aid for Women. The issue of abortion is a very personal one for me. At the age of 20, I was a single mother of a 4-year-old. I was working full-time and I was going to college full-time. During the spring semester, my world came to a complete halt when I found myself yet again in another unplanned pregnancy. The shame, the fear of what it would look like to manage 2 children and try to pay my own bills. I had been on my own since I was 17 years old. And eventually I was led to believe the vicious lie that abortion was the solution to my problem. I believed that I could walk right into an abortion clinic, walk right back out, and go on about my life as if nothing had ever happened. Unfortunately, that was the farthest thing from the truth. I walked out of the abortion clinic with such angst in my heart, aching. I wanted to run right back in and change it all, but there was nothing I can do at that point. I believed that lie. I was betrayed. I was told that it wouldn't hurt, that everything could go on just as before, that I could finish my college degree, as that's what my main goal was at the time. I eventually went back to class a few days after the procedure, and I couldn't sit in the classroom to the end. I walked out, and everything about the building reminded me of that decision that led me. So I eventually dropped out of college, the one thing that I did not want to do. Years later, after much healing, I have made the decision to go back to school and finish my college degree. I am now blessed to work for an organization and work with the women who come to the doors of Aid for Women, just 2 doors down from Planned Parenthood at 8 South Michigan Avenue. I get to sit across the chair from women who are facing the same circumstances and tell them the truth, something that was never told to me, something that I wasn't aware of. I wasn't aware of the physical pain I would face, nor the emotional and psychological aftermath that abortion brings on. We are able to share the truth that there are options for them. We are able to provide pregnancy tests, ultrasounds, and also housing for the women who are facing possibly getting kicked out or don't have a safe and stable place to go. I have witnessed the numerous lives saved through our center, as other pregnancy crisis centers throughout the nation. So today we are calling on our presidential candidates to defund Planned Parenthood, to stop the lies that they are telling the women that abortion is not the solution. There are resources, there are programs out there, such as Pregnant on Campus, that help women who are pregnant, students that are pregnant, or that are currently parenting. So I just ask you to keep this on the front lines, to make sure that other people are fully aware of what's going on, and that we together defund Planned Parenthood. Thank you.